Welcome to the Writing Studio's final workshop of the Fall 2023 semester, The Perfect Final Paper. Before we get started, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Writing Studio and the Online Writing Lab. Both free campus resources exist to support the Concordia community developed as writers and critical thinkers. We believe that writing is a process and that all writers benefit from engaged and individual feedback no matter where they are in their writing journey. In addition to workshops like these, which are available on our Writing Studio website, we offer handouts and resources in person, as well as consultations. We offer in-person consultations for undergraduate students and online asynchronous consultations for graduate, faculty, and staff. I invite you to check out those resources if you haven't already done so. Today, we're talking about the perfect final paper, whether that's a long-term research project or a term paper that's due at the end of a semester. So in order to talk about the perfect final paper, we need to establish what is generally needed for successful written projects. Next, we're going to discuss some writing-based strategies and tips. Third, we're going to invite personal application into your own writing process. And then at the end of our time together, we're invited to connect. Why do final papers feel so difficult? Well, final papers are daunting. And a work that we usually complete over the course of a whole semester, final papers call us to engage more deeply with topics or more broadly with topics than we engage in all semester long. Oftentimes, that work is a buildup of work that we've been doing for a long time. Many of our graduate programs have research projects that extend several semesters. And oftentimes, final papers culminate in the most writing that we've ever completed before. So where and how do we start, and how do we make sure that we succeed? It first starts with understanding the expectations of a good written project. No matter the discipline, this is what you can expect from a good written project. First, a successful project will adhere to the prompt or guidelines given. Second, it will reflect critical individual thinking and engagement with source material. Third, it will display attention to detail and contain few errors. And finally, it will meet a specific submission deadline. Keeping those in mind, here are some writing theory tips and strategies to help you get the most out of the time that you have in order to complete longer projects and to produce the best writing that you've ever done before. First, if writing is a process, planning your writing can go a long way. This might look like spending ample time with your prompt and instructions, talking through it with a friend or your professor, bringing your prompt to the writing studio and making sure you understand what's being asked of you. This also includes pre-writing, getting an idea of what you might want to talk about or what you might do before it's time to write and before you've done research. Third, we think that it's very helpful to sketch and stick to a timeline with what I call time buffers. We never know when life is going to get in the way, so giving yourself ample time to engage meaningfully with your writing project will ensure that you're able to create a project that does well. And then we always like to remind folks that our OWL appointments and our writing studio appointments fill up very quickly near the end of the semester. Have you booked your appointments yet? If you haven't, now's the time to do it. Our second tip, based in writing theory, is to know and use your resources. Writing is not done in a vacuum. Oftentimes, we're asked to respond to different pieces, to engage with different thinkers. One of the best ways that you can succeed is by knowing what you have on your side to help you succeed. Peruse our Writing Studio website or our group on MyCUI. You could make an appointment with a research librarian at the Schroeder Library. You could visit your professor's office hours to ask for help or for clarification. You can also peruse online resources, whether that's from us, from someone else, or from the library to aid in your research. Third, Stephen King says that the scariest moment is always just before you start. Our third writing-based tip is that at a certain point, you're going to just have to write. Definitely, if you've planned ahead, you should have ample time to sit down with that blank page, that blank notebook, that blank computer screen, and get going. Something that might be helpful to keep in mind is that the goal of a first draft should never be perfection, but rather should be focused on completion, hitting a word count, hitting all of your talking points. It should just be to get material on the page. Later on, we'll give you tips on how to turn that into a polished, finished product. But for now, sometimes it's helpful to just write. Another tip to keep in mind as you write is that the better you get to know yourself and your own writing process, the easier it will be to estimate how much time you'll actually need to sit down and draft. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Fourth, so you've made a plan, you know your resources and have done the pre-work, you've sat down and written out a first draft. The next step that produces great quality writing is seek out feedback. This is, of course, a shameless plug to visit your writing studio or book an appointment with the OWL. You can also talk it out with a close friend, talk through ideas that you're stuck in or ideas you think are going well. Another way that you can give yourself feedback is you can engage with your writing in a new way with fresh eyes. So if you type primarily on a computer, you can try printing out your draft and reading it outside to see if you might be able to see anything different. The big point of writing is that we're meant to precisely engage with particular topics. So feedback can tell us how successfully or unsuccessfully we've done that. Meeting with the writing studio consultants or OWL consultants also gives us individualized feedback to help us get to the next right step. Fifth, you've drafted, you've gotten feedback. Our next writing tip is spend devoted time revising your draft. Keep your prompt close. You might put it on a sticky note and put it on your computer. You might keep the prompt page with you to keep it in your mind as you write. But revision is about incorporating feedback and making big changes to help your paper be more successful. As you revise, it's easier to focus on big changes first, like organization or clarifying your prompt or rewriting your conclusion. Big changes often change the smaller things. If we change a paragraph, we'll probably change the sentences. So by focusing on those big changes or global changes first, we can then move into local changes later on without feeling like we've just revised something that we need to mess up again. And finally, as you revise, don't underestimate the time needed for references, grammar, and quote unquote finishing touches. There's nothing worse than feeling like you finished your paper and then suddenly remembering that you have to format a references page. So by giving yourself time, devoted time to revise those outside or marginal parts of our writing, we ensure that we give ample time to all of it. Next, as you write, remember that having enough to eat, getting a full night's sleep, moving your body, and giving yourself rest helps us produce our best work. Prioritize what you need to do to take care of yourself and don't let it slide. If you're someone that usually prioritizes the time that you take for studying, instead prioritize sleep, prioritize meals, prioritize the time of day that you're going to lock your office so that your kid can't find you and make you do something else. Prioritize the time that you need to take care of you, because it doesn't matter if you've written a great paper if you've hurt yourself in the process. And then finally, meet your deadline and then celebrate. In all writing projects, we usually finish when we reach a deadline, not a perfect essay. With that in mind, put in the work early on to give yourself time to submit with ample time before the deadline to minimize stress. I always like to say, don't underestimate Murphy's Law of technology. If anything can go wrong, will go wrong. Your dog will eat your essay if it's the most important thing. Your printer will run out of ink. Your Wi-Fi will go down. Giving yourself that buffer zone of time as you've done this whole process will help make sure that that doesn't get in the way of meeting your submission deadline. And then one of the difficult parts of writing is that so often we put in a lot of work, but our labor of love is often erased or is not visible when the project is done. So make plans to celebrate. You have just done a big work. Buy yourself something that you've been keeping your eye on. Go to a place you've wanted to go to for a long time. Cook yourself your favorite meal. Find a way to celebrate your great accomplishment, because writing a great paper deserves to be celebrated. All writing processes look unique because every person is different. We would love to invite you to take some time and brainstorm what your final push will look like. And remember, we're always here at the Writing Studio to talk about this with you. We've reached the end of our final workshop of this semester. If you have any further questions about our services, please check out our group on MyCUI or email us either to me personally or the Writing Studio at cui.edu. And we hope to see you very soon.